Speaking Project presents Relating the Topic to Your Audience by Lisa Schreiber, Ph.D., Voice Talent by Jill Sabarbro, with Morgan Hartranft as the Media Production Specialist. Imagine that you are in an audience and you are about to listen to two speakers. The first speaker gets up to give his speech, and almost as soon as he has begun, you and your fellow audience members lose interest. As you listen, you realize the topic is not relevant to your life. On top of that, he uses too much technical jargon, you don't even understand most of what he says. The end of the first speech is met with apathetic applause, and the speaker sits down. When the second speaker gets up to speak, she gets your attention immediately. Not only does she show listeners why her subject is relevant to their lives, she also explains her ideas in a way that everyone can understand. When the second presentation ends, the audience members applaud enthusiastically, and they are left wanting to hear more. If you had actually heard these two hypothetical speeches, it is likely you would consider the second speaker to be more effective and appealing than the first speaker. Do you know what the difference is between the first and second speaker? The first speaker is a self-centered speaker, and the second is an audience-centered speaker. Self-centered speakers write speeches that reflect their own needs, desires, interests, and agendas. They ignore the audience's knowledge level. When writing their speech, they focus only on their ideas that are personally interesting, and as a result, they lose their audience's interest. Audience-centered speakers tailor their speeches directly to the needs, desires, interests, and agendas of the audience. They write their speech at a level their audience will understand. Audience-centered speakers also select topics that are interesting to them personally, but they take the time to make their speech meaningful to the audience too, so they hold their audience's interest. Unfortunately, in this module, we don't have time to cover all of the aspects of how to conduct an audience analysis before constructing your speech. However, you can find an entire chapter about the audience analysis in our free textbook, Public Speaking, the Virtual Text, at www.publicspeakingproject.org. The purpose of this module is to help beginning speakers learn how to become audience-centered speakers. Here we will focus on some key tips that will assist you as you think about how to relate your topic to your audience. Tip number 1. Remember, audiences are diverse. Audiences are composed of a variety of people. Men and women of different ages, ethnicities, races, religions, political affiliations, education levels, economic levels, sexual orientations, and physical abilities. Each of these differences can shape their level of concern about a topic, their ability to understand the topic, and their willingness to accept new ideas. For instance, in speech opposing state funding cuts to higher education, a speaker can appeal to faculty by describing the potential for reduced salaries. He can appeal to students by describing the likely hike in tuition. And he can appeal to community members by describing the loss of income at local businesses due to decreased enrollments that would result from tuition increases. Tip number 2. Recognize that audience members have different motives. Audience members come to the speaking situation with different agendas. They have many different reasons for attending a presentation. The audience members may have an intellectual, emotional, social, professional, or economic interest in the topic, or they may just be there because they are required to listen to the presentation. For instance, when President Obama visits communities to give speeches, audience members attend for a number of reasons. Some attend for enjoyment because they are inspired by his rhetoric. Some attend for understanding because they are interested in what he has to say about the economic crisis and how it will impact their families. Some attend because they fear for their safety and wish to hear about his views on the war. And some, like media crews, attend because they have to be there for their jobs. Tip number 3. Acknowledge that audience members have different values. Values are based upon judgments where certain things are viewed positively and regarded with importance and worth. Our values dictate what is seen as good, right, fair, beautiful, desirable, and so on. According to Ethel Albert, value systems represent what we expect or hope for, what we require, or what is forbidden. value systems are not a report of actual conduct, but the criteria by which conduct is judged. Although some researchers have identified universal values that appear in all cultures, they acknowledge that values differ in terms of their strength, priority, and the number of people who hold that value. Some of these universal values include power, achievement, tradition, comfort, pleasure, social justice, and security. To illustrate, in a speech advocating that people stop smoking, a speaker could appeal to a number of different values, such as the desire to improve appearance, to reduce chronic health problems, reduce health insurance premiums, and to develop new relationships with people who avoid smokers. Tip number 4. Prepare for different speaking situations. In addition to acknowledging differences between audience members, a speaker must also consider several situational factors when preparing a speech. The first situational factor is the occasion. Remember that this speech content and tone should be appropriate to the occasion. A speech honoring someone for an Employee of the Year award should sound very different than a speech honoring someone in a eulogy. The second situational factor is the location of the speech. Is the speech to be given in a church, conference room, in an auditorium, or outside at a county fair? The room arrangement and equipment available will determine how you deliver your speech and the presentation aids you can use. The third situational factor is time. According to the Osborns, the authors of Public Speaking, the time of day, day of the week, time of the year, and time allotted for your speaking also affects your plans. It would be unwise for a manager to plan to teach employees a new software application at 4 p.m. on a Friday, as most will be focused on the upcoming weekend and will find it more difficult to pay attention. You should always speak for slightly less than the time allowed. What's more, you may have to cut out parts of your speech if the speakers who come before you have taken more time than their fair share. The fourth situational factor is the size of the audience. With larger audiences, you are more likely to be on a stage and more likely to use a microphone. There is also more physical distance, so it is harder to make a personal connection. Speeches for smaller audiences are more likely to happen in more intimate spaces, but this may result in a lack of audiovisual equipment. Speakers may have an easier time making connection with small audiences as they can get out from behind the podium or even walk among audience members. The fifth situational factor is the context of the speech. Is your speech the main event, or is it one of many presentations on a program? At what point in the program does your speech occur? You need to be aware of what other speakers will be speaking about and how your topic fits into the overall schedule so you can avoid repeating information or giving a speech that is at odds with the event. If your speech comes at the start of the program, you may not have to work as hard to keep your audience's attention as if your speech comes at the end of a program. Tip number 5. Show the audience with 'em. While the entire content of a speech should be tailored to the audience and occasion, it is critical that speakers explain to the audience early in their speeches exactly why the topic is relevant to their lives. The acronym WIIFM, or WIFM, stands for What's in it for me? This is the question that listeners ask themselves when they begin to listen to a speech. Listeners want to know, what does this speech have to do with my life? Is this information useful to me? Is the speaker talking about something I already know? Is the subject interesting? Why should I pay attention? If the speaker cannot show how the topic is relevant or interesting, then she or he will have a very hard time maintaining the audience's attention. On his website, Craig Valentine, a professional speaker, gives his example of WIFM from his speech on the benefits of forgiveness. You cannot live your dreams if you are still holding on to your nightmares. The baggage will break you down. If you forgive others, you will have more energy to focus on your goals and dreams. Consider this other example. This activity relaxes your whole body. It provides you with a distraction. It helps you connect with others. This activity releases endorphins. Have you guessed what I'm talking about? How about if I tell you this activity also boosts your immune system and protects your heart? If you haven't figured it out by now, I'm talking about laughter. So, let's summarize. To be an effective speaker, it is important to write your speech with the audience in mind. Self-centered speakers focus on their own needs and interests and are not effective at reaching their audiences. Because audience-centered speakers take the time to make their topic meaningful to their audiences, it is easier for them to get and hold their audience's attention. While writing a speech, a speaker needs to remember 5 points. First, audiences are made up of a diverse group of individuals with different concerns, knowledge levels, and frames of mind. Second, audiences have different motives for coming to the presentation. Third, audiences hold different values which determine what they see as important. Fourth, speakers need to adapt to a variety of speaking situations to make the most of their opportunity to speak. Finally, early in the speech, speakers have to establish WIFM so listeners have a clear idea of how the topic relates to their lives. Thank you for visiting the Public Speaking Project's virtual classroom. To watch other modules or to find other resources for speaking, go to www.publicspeakingproject.org.